Hey there! Today we're going to be talking about this pen which is eagerly anticipated. This is the Kaweco AlSport Black, and it's a piston filler. For the longest time we've been waiting for this, I think. Kaweco is a brand that goes back quite far. It's one of those brands that went under, was revived, and all the way back in the day Kaweco made a Sport model which was actually a safety filler. So it had a nib that would withdraw, and then you would eyedropper that pen with ink, and then you could twist the end and the nib would come out again. You would write with it. Now the Sport model was revived by Kaweco years ago. I've reviewed a lot of Sports, but the problem has always been that with the new Sports you can really only use standard international short cartridges, and the plastic ones you can eyedropper, but that's not for everyone. Kaweco tried two types of converters. They were not perfect. I remember the old squeeze type, and it would really not hold a lot of ink. So ink capacity was an issue because it's a relatively small pen. Now we have this piston filler, and that's very cool. So here we definitely have a nice ink capacity. I'm going to cover the parts of the pen. I'll do a writing sample. I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. Before we do that, the pen was lent to me by Joost Appelboom of Appelboom Pens. If you want one, remember to click the banner on the website. You get a 10% discount. Okay, that's my website, not their website, because that wouldn't make sense, would it? I think. Let's get started. Alright, so here we go with the Kaweco AlSport Black Piston Filler. Comes in this very cute tin that I will show you first, which has it's a very vintage looking packaging, right? Kaweco has done that for the longest time. I think it's very nice. Their tin, no longer rectangular, but for this one, round, which I think is very nice. Again, very vintage look to it. Just opening that up, there we have Kaweco, this is a sticker, and we have a history of the brand, which I think is quite cute as well, with filling instructions and all. We have this cute looking ink bottle, vial maybe. They're inks, they're nice inks, and if this adds a little bit to the price in this setup, it's 143 euros and 98 cents excluding tax. You can get one that is, I forgot to write down the price, but it's a little bit cheaper, then you don't get the bottle of ink. So if you don't care about that, then you can do it that way. Here we have the pen. It is a smaller pen, so let me zoom in a bit to show you the details. And then we have this pen right next to a Pilot Metropolitan. So a smaller pen, a pocket pen, but the Sport model has always been that. So compact piston filler, but it has a good ink capacity, and it really does seem to have a good ink capacity. I've been playing around with this double broad nib for a while, and I've certainly not run out of ink yet. Has an ink window, I'll show you in a second. It's an anodized matte body, and it has a built-in clip, which is interesting because the traditional Sports didn't have a clip. You could buy a separate clip, but you could slide on. I actually have one here because someone sent me this Cusado and they put a clip on. So this is actually a Kaweco clip. So that's what they look like, and you would slide it on. But with this piston filler, it's already included and it's not removable. This is a permanent clip. Nice nib range in steel, but you get extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and double broad, and that's pretty much it. So there we are, parts of the pen. On top we have this fun little finial which just says Kaweco, KW pronounced. Koch-Weber company, that's where the Kaweco name comes from. Again, vintage looking logo, vintage looking clip, which I think is quite attractive, quite nice. The Kaweco logo there, or at least yeah, so it's same as on the this kind of font. I think it's quite nice. Clip is certainly springy. We have the faceted cap, right, which you see on the sports, and then you have of course, the barrel, little ring, and then excuse me, the piston turning knob. Now, I have compared this pen to a regular Kaweco that I forgot to pull out, but that's okay. It feels a tiny smidgen thinner in girth than the regular model, but it's almost imperceptible. Cap unscrews. This is all aluminum, right? And then you have the actual pen. Just trying to make it not roll away. It is a steel nib. This is double broad, quite nice, with the Kaweco logo on it again. We have the ink window, which is maybe a little hard to see, but it is there. I think it was more visible when I held it up, but I mean, it's right there. Sort of hourglass shaped section, small, obviously, and this edge is a little bit sharp, but it's nothing terrible. We have a nice plastic feed, also with the Kaweco logo on it. I think that is a nice touch. I don't know how well you can see it, but it is there. And of course, it's a tiny pen, right? These are small pocket pens, but the idea is that you post them and then they become a comfortable size. And I will say, I find, me as a person who likes larger pens, I still find this a very comfortable size. So I certainly will say that about it. Quite nice. Now, I have not dipped into that bottle of ink that came with it simply because the pen is not my property. I've left that for the actual owner, but I did ink it up with, what is that brand called? I'm now blanking. Eldergraph, that it's a blue. I'm sorry. I'll look it up for the next review. Now, writing sample. This is a double broad nib. I'm not going to write down the whole full, the black and the piston filler. And this is that, is it Eldergraph? Etagov? I'm blanking. I'm so sorry. I'm not perfect. Now, writing. Smooth. Pleasant. In the past, I certainly remember having used some double broad Kaweco nibs that were over polished and skipped quite a bit. In this one, I really feel that it is a well-tuned nib. It's pleasant to use, and I don't really notice any massive skips. There's a bit of this that was, of course, super fast writing, but overall, in writing, I have had no issues with it. Nice and wet, without being excessively wet. As to line variation, with such broad nibs, often you get a little bit of a slight stubbiness to it, and you can see it here a little bit. I have the feeling these downstrokes, this is no pressure, are a bit wider than the side strokes. So, I mean sides, yeah. Downstroke is a bit wider than side stroke. And that's what you get in such broad nibs often, because of the tipping, the way they grind it, often end up with something a little stub-like. Okay, line variation, it's beyond that. It's not men's flex nib, it's not advertised as such, so very careful. But you could squeeze out a little bit of line variation if you wanted to. But again, it's not a flex nib, so you really shouldn't. I always see people do that, but I mean, you really shouldn't. Reverse writing is possible, is not particularly scratchy, and turns this double broad into, I would say, a very skinny fine, maybe even an extra fine. So it can be done if you value such a thing. Overall, of course, the best part of this pen is that it is a piston filler, and I haven't shown it to you because there's ink in it, but you rotate that bit, right, and then down goes the piston. It works well, it works very smoothly, very pleasant to use. So how about we talk about likes and dislikes. What do I like? What do I not like about the Kaweco AlSport Black, the piston filler? I think there's a lot to like. Obviously, first of all, the filling system. A piston that works well, we have been anticipating for a long time. Easy way to have a nice, larger ink capacity in a pen of this size. I love it. Finally we're there. It's wonderful, it's easy to use. I really like it. It's smooth, it works well, so that's great. The other thing that I think is quite nice is that they chose to implement this on the aluminum model, or aluminium if you so prefer. Aluminum, nice, light material, but still metal, so it feels solid. It feels like it's not just going to crack. Not that the plastic Kawecos feel that way, but it is more solid than a plastic. This could roll off your desk and it would stand a pretty good chance of surviving. I really like that. I also like that, as I said, aluminum is fairly light, so it's not a heavy pen. I know it's a smaller pen, but depending if it were brass, for example, it would be a lot heavier, right? Stating the obvious. I like that. I like the ink window, which you can hardly see this way, but if I turn it over, then you should be able to tell where it is. Works well, and that is very nice too. You can see how much ink you have left. I really appreciate Kaweco did or made the effort to actually put that in. It makes a difference. No longer can you quickly unscrew the barrel to see how much ink you have left in your cartridge, right? So I think that's very good. Things I don't like so much. There are two things. I think one is a bit more objective, the other might be a little bit more subjective. So let me start with the subjective part. 143 euros 98 cents, that's not including VAT, for a smaller pen with a steel nib, I think is on the higher end excuse me, of the price spectrum. Yes, you get a piston filler and that's great, and it's a metal pen and I love that, and you can get a slightly less expensive version if you don't want the bottle of ink with it, so that saves a couple euros, but it's not an awful lot. Or dollars or yen, whatever you use. It's not a big difference. It is a nice complete set. It looks very cute. The round tin, the ink, it looks very sweet, but let's be fair, it's not super inexpensive. Then again, you do get a cool filling system, and I do like that a lot more than the regular standard Kawecos. So that would be my kind of subjective qualm, because for some people this is just pocket change, right? And for others it's not. But I do think it's worth pointing out. At this price, you start to get in a range where a gold nib becomes an expectation. And Kaweco did them for a while. They had gold nibs for a while that fit the sport. So I don't know if they still make them. I had the feeling they kind of discontinued them, but I could be wildly off. At this price, I would start to expect something like that. Other thing that I think is a bit more objective is you are dealing with metal, and when you post metal on metal, do you hear that? I'm getting this close to my microphone. It always makes me a bit nervous. Nervous that at some point you're going to get scratches. Now that's not an issue for everyone. Personally, I think that adds a bit of charm to the pen because you show that you're actually using it. However, some people are very averse to having scratches or little dents or whatever on their pens, and I fully understand that too. It makes me a little nervous. I wonder over a long period of time what would happen to this pen if you post it a lot. And that's just all I have. So beyond that, nice pen. The double broad wrote very nicely. I have in the past seen double broad nibs from Kaweco that skipped more, with which I had more issues. This is not one of them. So I think that is really nice. There we are. I hope this was useful. A much anticipated pen. A kind thank you to Joost for lending me one basically as soon as they came out. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye.